Hello everybody and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me. Our episode today is called Rescued from Certain Death and a mystery man in a black Crombie coat. I've been in touch with a gentleman named Caen Miles for many years now after he shared his continuing experiences with UFO and mystery beings with me after an event that he had in the 1980s where he saw a UFO at Tegnos Country Park, which is close to Macclesfield in the northwest of England. Over the years, he has documented a vast amount of photographic evidence, all of which he shared with me. I will bring you all of that information in a later interview so that we can look into the events more in depth. Caen has seen an entire field light up in front of him, taken numerous shots of light beings and ET. He's seen orbs taking part in haunted investigations. On one occasion, a phone he left in a locked office at work over the weekend managed to take several photographs by itself, and the images are startling. While filming an interview, we captured an orb that actually comes over Cain's shoulder as we were talking about orbs and energy beings that day. While I was there, Cain went on to explain about a really severe crash that him and Jackie had gotten into in the Buxton area. And that's what I want to share with you today. It's an interview with Cain and his wife, Jackie. And it takes place at the crash site. And I interviewed them on the 17th of November, 2023. I drove down to the exact spot with the guys from the Paranormal Film Unit who filmed me chatting with the couple as they explained what happened to them that day. First, I'll give you a quick rundown of events, followed by the interview itself. There have been some strange synchronicities at play, and I will explain those in full after the interview. So, on a Thursday evening in December of 2003, Cain had a vivid lucid dream where he was involved in a car accident, and in that dream, he became trapped in the car in a river with his left leg pinned under the dashboard. The dream really shook him up and it began to play on his mind. So 3 days later, on the Sunday, Cain's wife Jackie suggested they went for a drive to one of their favourite places, change his mood, how he was feeling. So off they went to Bakewell on a cold morning. It was beautiful outside as it was snowing, a lovely winter's day in the northwest of England. The A6 is an old road that winds across the UK, and in places it can be very rural, also narrow and tricky to drive. As the couple approached a road called Cowdale Corner, a well-known black spot, something bad happened. The car skidded close to an area where there was a missing portion of the stone wall due to an accident taking place there just days earlier. Cain said the steering wheel spun so quickly his hand went through the car window and the car went into a skid that he couldn't pull out of. They hit the gap in the wall and the car hit the river hard, and it started slowly submerging into the freezing cold water. The couple ended up in an icy river, trapped in a car, and the freezing cold water began to rise. The accident spot is in the middle of nowhere, and even today the signal reception is shoddy at best as the road winds through the rocky hillsides. And then a miracle happened. From nowhere came a squad of female soldiers who were on TA exercises in the woods nearby. They jumped into the river without hesitation. One of them was able to get Jackie out of the car and onto the bank safely, but Cain was still trapped and they couldn't get him out. He was badly injured and freezing cold by now, up to his waist in water. He was hurt in the exact areas of his body as those in the dream, with his leg pinned under the dashboard. Within minutes, a fire engine appeared along with the police and ambulances, two in fact. Cain was bleeding heavily from his arms and his right hand was broken. He had a compound pelvis fracture to his spine and his left leg, the same place on his leg as it was in the dream. That thought was not lost on him, and he was amazed how quickly help had arrived. The road was closed as firefighters wearing buoyancy equipment waded into the water and tied lines to nearby trees to stop the car from being washed away in the river. There was a serious concern about hypothermia setting in before they could remove Caen from the vehicle, as temperature that day were just below freezing. While he was stuck there in the car, blood pouring from him in the chilly, cold river, he noticed and felt a presence with him. A very strange but tranquil energy came over him, and he could see a white mist above the water. It felt like someone was watching him, watching over him perhaps. Cain looked across the bank and saw Jackie sitting next to a strange guy wearing a suit who was dressed like a priest, but this was no priest. Cain said he was your typical man in black. It took over 2 hours before they eventually pulled Cain out of the car after the fire service had cut the roof off. The head serviceman that day was called Bernard Preacher, which is a coincidence not lost on me. Cain didn't realise this at the time. I noticed it 20 years later when I read the newspaper report of the event. This event had a profound effect on Cain, and he later joined the ministry himself and was ordained as a preacher. The police officer was also named Goddard, which means guard of the gods. The day after the accident, a police officer came to see Cain on the ward at the hospital to talk to him about his recollection of the crash and to take his statement. The officer said there had been some very strange circumstances regarding the crash that he was struggling to explain. He said the witnesses reported the car hitting the wall at 2:15 p.m, but a 999 call came in from a mast situated 2 miles down the road at 2 p.m, and nobody knows who this caller was or how he knew about the crash 15 minutes before they even hit the wall. A witness told the police that she saw a man dressed in black around 2 miles away, and he was on his mobile phone as she passed him. That call saved their lives. After the accident, Jackie wanted to thank all of the people who came together that day to save them, and they were able to do that, but nobody they spoke to saw the man dressed in black standing with Jackie on the bank, let alone recognise him. In fact, one of the women and several firemen and police officers stated that there was no man on the right-hand bank standing with Jackie that day. Only the couple saw him. None of the attending people saw anyone. As if this event wasn't life-changing enough, they survived by the skin of their teeth, only for it to happen again, on the same road, within 2 years of the first event. And this time, Jackie was severely injured as the car hung over the precipice of the river.
Here today with you guys, and we're actually at the scene of the accident. And I know it's a lot, and I know it was a hard drive, but we're here today and we're going to put it to bed.
Thank you, Debbie. Yeah.
Cheers.
So if you don't mind telling me, you came was driving,
Yeah.
and you it was a Thursday that you had the dream. So you don't start there.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had this really vivid dream, and in the dream, on the Thursday night, I dreamt I was in a really horrific car crash.
Right.
And in the dream, my left leg was trapped in the car in a river.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so vivid, this dream. I said to Jackie the following day, I said, I need to go and find a psychic or somebody who can give me some clarity about this dream. I said, because it's so horrific. So I couldn't find anybody. So on the Sunday, I'd forgotten about it. I mentioned, Jackie said, would you like to go to Bakewell? So we decided to come to Bakewell, and it was mad really because the weather was horrendous.
Yeah.
It wasn't snowing, it was quite sunny, but there was ice and snow everywhere. And as we came through round the corner to Cowdale Corner, I turned to Jackie and said, did you feel the car skid then? And before she could say yes, the wheel just went boom, like this. We went into this massive broadside, and the car came down the road sideways, and there was a wall just to the river here. And the car came sideways, and it hit the corner of the wall. The wall came into the car, I put my hand right through the windscreen, the side window, and we plummeted over there into the side of that bank. And the back end of the car landed in the river. And the only thing that saved us were the two front wheels, wasn't it,
Yeah.
Jackie?
That were on
And the
back
two
of
front
the
wheels
water.
embedded themselves on the bank over there.
Right.
So, like I said to you before, we went from absolute carnage to calm, didn't we?
Yes.
And I remember it was freezing cold. It was about 2:15. And I couldn't believe it. And the thing was, my left leg in the dream was stuck underneath the bulkhead of the car. And I'm up to here in this freezing cold water. Jackie is as well.
Yeah, and she's shorter than you.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's shorter than me.
Yes.
She's up. And all of a sudden, out of the woods over here, a lot of these women territorial army girls come out and just dived into the river, fully clothed.
Yeah, without thinking, did they?
Without
Just
thinking.
jumped in.
And dragged Jackie out of the car. This girl, she was incredible. Pulled her
I
out
don't
on her
know. I
own.
didn't want to go. Obviously, I wanted to stay
And
with you.
what she
But
took you onto the
onto the
bank.
bank at the other side of the river.
So all of it, then we hear this sound of a helicopter overhead.
Within seconds. Within
Within about,
Minutes. Would it be a few minutes? Just a
yeah,
few
it's hard to
minutes?
put it into actual time frame, but it's pretty quick. And when the helicopter arrived, I'm thinking,
I don't want to go in.
I don't want to go in there.
No, I
So-
don't want to go in there.
So you were sat on the bank. weren't
I
you?
was stood on the bank.
With a lovely gentleman.
Yes, I don't know, a gentleman appeared. Quite a few people appeared. This gentleman stood very close to me and kept reassuring me that everything was going to be all right. I can't fully remember what he said, but I think the fire service appeared, ambulances appeared, and he kept saying, "Don't worry, your partner's going to get out. You'll be in that ambulance soon. You'll be on your way. Don't worry." I'm going to get a bit emotional
okay.
now.
It's okay.
And I mean, I was frightened to death for you because you were trapped in that car.
Yeah.
But like you, he was kind of comforting me
Yeah.
and saying, "You'll be all right." There was a couple next to me who had blankets, they had coffee, they were offering me. I was like, no, I don't want
Get
anything.
him out.
Yeah. And then
And
the
then,
fire service into that river without a second thought.
they tied the car up with these
It's
massive
true.
ropes, and the car was literally lassoed to all the trees. And they had these hydraulic cutters.
Right.
And have you ever seen them?
No, but
They are
They
are
huge.
Debbie, they are.
They are huge. And these cutters, they put a board on your back.
right.
And I knew I'd hurt myself, I'm not sure. But anyway, they cut the roof off and I got pulled out. We ended up in Mac General.
Right.
And the following day, this policeman came in. He said, the weirdest
Spoke
thing.
to you, I wasn't there.
He said, your 999 call came in at 2:00. He said, your crash was witnessed by a bus driver at 2:15. He said, so 15 minutes before your car hit the wall, the emergency services had told the red car had hit a wall by a mobile from a mast. They picked up a mast 2 miles down the road.
There's nothing out here.
Yeah.
There's nothing out here.
And if somebody had phoned here where the accident actually
You would have
happened,
had no
they would have
signal.
had no signal.
And back 20 years ago, in them days, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it wasn't like it is today.
Not
Which is
as easy
you
as
say we've all drove here this morning, and as you come round this bend, it is a frightening.
It's not a nice bend, is it?
It
It
is.
is
Yeah.
not.
So for the last 20 years, Jackie and I have been thinking, well, it went into the newspaper, but they didn't mention this person who made the call.
No,
No.
none of
And
that was
it- and it-
mentioned,
You took it tonight,
unfortunately.
didn't
Yes, we
And
went to the fire
weird,
station
yeah.
eventually when you were feeling better to thank them for all they had done. And obviously we talked about it. And, you know, there was a couple, like I say, that had a blanket and various things. And they said, oh, yes, you know, we know who they are. And I said, oh, there was a gentleman stood with me for the entire time to the left of me. And I noticed the fireman looked a bit blank, you know. And he said, oh, I didn't see anybody stood on that side of the river with you. Well, he was stood with me for the entirety. I know when you got in the ambulance, I don't remember seeing him when they called me to go in the ambulance with you. I didn't see him then, but you know, for all of the time before, he was stood like you are, right next to me. So how
This has been a mystery for us. For 20 years, we've been thinking to ourselves, who was the guy? Oh, the thing was, why?
In black.
Why would you have a drink?
Black.
Was he all in black?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looked Italian, I must say. He looked Italian,
You did
but he was very charming. He was very charming, and it looked like he had a Crombie coat on. He was stood in black right next to me, and I can visualize him as if it was yesterday. Anybody else, I have no idea what they look like now. It's 20 years on, so that's another little.
Well, whoever he was your guardian angel.
He was.
This has been a mystery for us for 20 years.
Yeah, all those things that have come together.
Why did it happen in the first place? You know, why would you have a dream? And then 3 days
for it to happen.
And it happened exactly as it happened in the dream, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's frightening anyway. Waking up from a dream like that's incredibly lucid.
Yeah.
It's confusing and frightening. And then within 4 days, you're actually in that situation. Standing here today, the idea of being in that river now is terrifying. And I'm not in a car crash, and I'm dressed for the weather, you know. So
it's quite a torrent of.
The mystery that who phoned the crash in 15 minutes before it happened?
We had to go and have cognitive therapy afterwards for about 16 weeks to be able to drive down this road.
Yeah.
To literally drive. I was only the passenger. I was terrible.
To learn to drive. And I said to Jackie after we came out of this crash a few weeks later, said I said this could happen again.
Yeah.
I said it could quite easily happen again. I said let's make sure we have a strong car because that car saved our life.
Yeah, if we've been in any other car, I don't think we'd have
and then we got a Mercedes.
Yeah.
So 18 months later.
Oh my God.
I couldn't write this. Jackie said, why don't we go to Bakewell? It was a lovely sunny day. Beautiful day in August.
Yes, thinking that we'll have a lovely day, no problem at all.
We got the therapy, we're all set to come down the road. We're in a brand new Mercedes Benz. Lovely, radio on. We came down that bend from up there, doing about 40. There was a long sweeping left-hand bend.
Right.
All I saw was a white flash.
Yeah.
And there was a van, coming straight at us in our lane. And this guy was going at mega speed, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he'd lost control in the bend. He hit his head on in this Mercedes. And I've never seen a car explode from the inside, but that one did.
Oh my goodness.
All the airbags went off.
I looked over to you, Marcy. I think we said bye because I thought that was it.
If you've ever been in a car crash with an airbag goes off, it's like something boom.
Yeah.
And I remember it shooting into your face, and literally it cut your nose. So
yeah, it nearly knocked me out.
Everywhere. So sorry.
And Jackie had her seatbelt.
I'm chilled out.
And as the impact happened, Jackie went forward and the seatbelt went back and dislocated a hip.
Oh, right under my stomach. That was extremely painful. And then, of course, my stomach started to swell straight away.
And the impact of the crash pushed us back into the wall.
Oh, no.
Over the river.
And we were kind of hanging, I seem to remember. We were hanging.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
my God.
I could see the river, and I thought, here we go again.
And the guy in the van had no seats in it.
I know, nobody's telling me that.
How can you drive a van with no seats? And he went under the dashboard porthole. He must have been a mess because he must have been doing 80 at least.
On a 50, it's only a 50.
So if you combine the two speeds together, 80 and 40, you're hitting the wall at 120 miles an hour.
And
Poor soul, you were really
I
hurt.
wasn't so good.
You've
that
never been
time.
right since,
No,
to be
no.
honest.
No, and I wouldn't
No,
imagine
driving is.
So that's having
something
you
I don't like
that-
doing.
hip
that-
replacement.
That was about a year later, but it was all to do with the accident.
it's a traumatic event that's taken place over 2 years.
Yeah.
And
Not
each
safe,
time,
no.
each time you've managed to catch your breath,
Yeah,
something
it
else.
does,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's quite
And that
understandable.
cognitive therapist said to us, in a lifetime, most people don't have an accident.
Yes.
You've had that accident.
Yeah.
It is never likely to happen again. And I will never forget those words because I feel like saying to him, you lied. You lied to us.
You've got
Oh.
a guardian angel somewhere.
I don't know what to say.
But do you
But
know,
this first accident changed my life
Yeah.
because I was never a believer in any
Spiritual.
extraterrestrial,
No.
anything like that at all. And now I am totally open to so much, and I've seen so
the
much
world
more.
is not what you think.
No, I was like that, blinkered.
We're
before that
living in the
accident.
twilight world, I think.
There's so
Well,
much out there.
You hadn't noticed, and Jeff hadn't noticed, that the head paramedic who was here on the day was called Mr. Preacher.
Do you know, can I just say something?
It's got to say something in its
Can I
own,
just
hasn't
say
it?
something?
You
Yeah.
got on afterwards.
Can I
Yeah.
just say something?
Oh,
I've not
no.
told you this story, but this is amazing because when I got told in hospital that the guy looked like a priest, when that crash was happening and I was looking down that river, there was like this white mist, and I'm thinking, I didn't know about the priest then.
Right.
And when I heard about that guy, this man in black thing, I was compelled to wear black.
Black,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I know.
I've worn that cross since the day of the crash,
Yeah.
and I got myself ordained because I thought I want to be like that guy.
Well, protection, really.
Yeah, I got myself ordained online, which in the States you can do.
Yeah.
That's the way you want to be.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can only try to be what you want to be. You can't always be perfect, can you?
Well,
No, you can just
No.
be the best
Best you can be. Yes, exactly.
Gosh, that river was so deep.
I know it was only a matter of seconds, but he said life-changing
Changing
event,
things.
isn't it? Even
It
a
is.
normal crash at a set of traffic lights.
Yeah.
Shake you up, but you
That
can have all
is-
of that.
That
But
is
this-
well,
This is like something you see in a film or
Yeah,
every day,
that's
you know,
actually how it did feel at the time. It was just surreal, wasn't it?
and the
And the fact
silence.
that we landed, the car landed on the bank, and then half of it was in this deep
You know,
river.
the ironic thing
Oh
of
my
it is,
goodness.
Deb, when we were in that second car crash, this is so funny because the fire service, when they cut the roof off the car, they have to hacksaw the windscreen out.
Oh, like you do.
They have this great big saw. They sawing the windscreen out, and Jackie said, "You won't break the mirror, will you?"
On the mirror. Can I say, on the mirror, a friend of mine had
Yeah.
bought me this beautiful crystal
Right.
that was
Yeah.
supposed to be protective,
Well, it did
and it was
work.
round the mirror.
He said,
And as they pulled the roof off, the beautiful crystal went away, and I'm like, oh, where's my crystal?
Well, you did a good job.
Yeah. Where did it go?
Yeah.
That was so
Yeah.
funny. That was the funny side. Well, it wasn't funny.
Right, that.
A lady climbed over the car, I seem to remember. My stomach is swelling by this point.
You thought
Seatbelt
she
under my
was
stomach.
pregnant.
And she kept saying to me, are you pregnant, love? Are you pregnant? Well, it would be a miracle at my age.
Fractured something though.
Oh, dear God, it was horrible. But she was absolutely convinced that I was pregnant. And the poor woman is close to the river.
Yeah, getting ready. Yeah.
And I said to her, if you carry on, you'll fall in the river. I'm not pregnant. She said, no, love, no, you're pregnant. Look at you. And my stomach is swelling.
The
What the heck?
amazing thing about
Where did that poor woman go?
Right,
Mind
you-
boggles
you
me.
managed
She didn't
to.
go.
It doesn't go anywhere.
well, the fireman that was talking to me in the first car crash, he had these waders on,
Right.
these wader
Yeah.
things, and he was up to his
Yeah,
neck.
that's dangerous. That
He
'cause
was
they can
up to his
fill up,
neck,
yeah.
and he was just talking to me, so he must have been in about 5 or 6 foot of water.
Got
Yeah.
to be. Yeah, it's got to
But
be.
how calm were they? They knew exactly what they were doing. I
Mm.
mean, they were amazing, weren't they?
You can't write it.
Absolutely
Could you?
amazing.
You just couldn't
It's
write
incredible.
it. You know,
I think
and
we
as we
take them
share,
for granted, though, don't
Yeah.
we? Like, oh, they're going to be there and they're bound to save you.
Yeah,
You do?
It's the same for me. I was an hour
I'm
and
not
a
planning on
half.
going there again anytime soon, are we, Jackie?
No, it's looking too close.
The day I had my accident, the day my life changed, I died 3 times that day.
Oh my
I don't remember it. I don't remember any of it.
Wow.
I just don't remember.
No,
Wow.
it may be a good thing.
Yeah, I think it is. I was going to say, I think your brain sometimes blocks something off
Yeah.
because it's that traumatic.
Yeah.
But the man in the
Process
suit
it.
is, for me, is some kind of guardian.
Yeah.
It's got
Right.
something, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Nobody's seen him. You can understand in an accident that you might not spot 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
But a chap stood there in all black next
Yeah.
to the lady who's been in the accident. I'm quite
Yeah.
sure.
As I started at the time, I didn't really think anything about it, other than he was very reassuring. And I think other people on the other side, I don't really remember what they looked like, but I think everyone was panicking because obviously, you know, there's a car half in the water and half on the bank, and he seemed very calm. And I think that's what kind of got me through without being totally hysterical. Seeing Caen being cut out of a car, you know, and he kept saying, keep calm, don't worry, he'll be out soon.
Get him out.
And all of these reassuring feelings. And at the time, it you know, we'd get in the ambulance, we'd go off to hospital. I didn't really think about it. It was as the days progressed, I started to process it. But yeah, I can visualize him now, and that's 20 years later.
Well, let's say thank you to him, Marvin.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
thank you.
Bless you for what you did.
Thanks for listening to our story.
I know, dear God.
I'm really privileged that you allowed me to come down here.
Oh.
I know how hard it must be standing at this.
It's not been easy. You're tougher than I am. I'm a
Right, if
total
you don't-
You're very
weakling.
strong.
I
No,
am.
you're not, Jack.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
you're not.
Jack.
You stood here today. Yeah,
It's
you
a
are.
big
Stood here
thing.
today.
Looking in that.
There's a lot of folk wouldn't make it out the
We
living
came
room.
down on Sunday and she was in bits.
You
Oh, it was
do a
bad.
double run, yeah.
Yeah.
I was bad.
It's
Just
not
to give you a taste of what it was like.
But yeah, just know, give yourself
Yeah.
permission to know it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
In the past, it's gone.
We are lucky. We are lucky that we are here.
Yeah, you are. You're blessed.
When I went to the area to meet up with the film crew, with Caen and Jackie, it was a really cold day. I removed all of the wind sounds from the interview so you could hear us more clearly as we talked, but it was pretty rough out there. It was really cold and the water was freezing. Standing there as they explained the events of the day, with the hole still in the wall, was intense, and I understood just how hard it must have been for them. Nobody came along in the time we were there, and hardly any cars passed us, and the din from the river made it impossible for anyone to hear you if you had to shout for help. They both had extensive therapy to deal with the accident itself, but that still left them with so many questions, which, when you hear the story, is understandable, isn't it? I feel they were being looked after that day, and in following events over the last 21 years since. Who was the mystery man in the Crombie coat? Jackie said he never left her side, and he was very comforting. Yet her and Caen were the only ones to see him. Why was he out there, in the middle of nowhere, with no car, wearing a suit of all things? And was he the mystery witness who called in the crash? The water was icy cold, and calling that crash in early saved Cain's life. If the river didn't take him, the cold would have done. Well, we know how cold the water was, as one of the film crew was working the drone for aerial footage at the crash site. The drone lost flight and ended up in the river. And it was thanks to one of the film crew who jumped in to retrieve it that we realised just how icy it was. It would have been far worse for Caen and Jackie, as the temperatures were much lower on the day of their crash. He saved the drone, but sadly we couldn't retrieve the footage. And I've realised now that on most of the paranormal investigations we do, we seem to get gremlins with the tech, and that was the same in this interview. But it left me with the opportunity that I could add some images in for you to see. I left the couple that day, intended to get the interview together, edited to YouTube within the week, as normal. But that's not how things turned out. Within 6 days of meeting Caen and Jackie, on the 23rd of the 11th, 2023, I had my own car accident with a mysterious driver in a black Audi who hit me from behind and refused to identify himself at the scene. He hit us so hard, both airbags went off, and in the confusion, he left. I broke my thumb, 2 bones in my hand, and from that day I have suffered with serious vertigo. It's been debilitating, and something I'm still experiencing, to be honest. It took me quite a while to get back into the car and carry on as normal, but eventually I did. And on the 16th of April 2024 was it again, by a black Audi whose driver sped off and left me at the scene. And then on the 23rd of November 2024, it happened again. A year to the day. I had 3 cars hit me in non-fault accidents in the space of a year. And as I write this, it's early Feb 2025, and 2 of my drivers are still to be traced, even with independent witnesses at the scene. In Jan 2024, one of the film crew was also involved in a car crash. Now, I can't go into details on that as it's a private matter, but his injuries have been life-changing to say the least. Caen and Jackie have travelled to Europe since we last caught up with them and moved to a beautiful area in Wales, an area where Cain's had some strange experiences happen. I'll be catching up with them in a couple of weeks to update you all and to share some more of their experiences with you. I'd like to thank the guys over at the Paranormal TV unit for all of their help with this project, and I can't wait to work with them again. I think it's really refreshing to be able to return to the scene of an incident with the witness as they explain what happened that day. I'd love to do more interviews like this, and I've several booked in ready to go. Next week, you'll see an interview with myself and David Robinson from Wigan, who had his own experience with what he described as wild humans in Elm Nut Woods over the years. David shares his experiences on camera with me in an interview, and as he talks about his tech malfunctioning in the area, ours did too. We had some uncanny battery drains, missing footage, and the audio and the energy in the area aged me 20 years in that short visit. I was physically sick after crossing an energy line that ran over the brook. Over the years, David has recorded howls, running footsteps, and has a host of images and witness testimony from other people in the area, and I will add those into the interview for you to see. I'm sure some of you will have questions of your own about this case, or, the cases that I do, or you've experienced something yourself. Life has a way of throwing us for loops at times, but in the end, things work out as they should. And with that in mind, I wish you all a blessed week, and I'll be back with another enthralling episode of the BBR Case Files. Good night, everyone.